This presentation addresses the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, FCCC, and its current version as the Paris Agreement. The presentation addresses the relevance of the 2025 State of the Climate Research, Evidence and Claims for any initiative aiming for polycrisis mitigation and adaptation. Presentation sections discuss the 2025 State of the Climate, the key goals of the FCCC, the impacts of climate change, the mechanism of nationally determined contributions, or NDCs, and effective action after the Paris Agreement has failed to secure safe outcomes for humanity. 15 response options are recommended by the IPBES Nexus assessment. Civil Nexus is a platform for individuals and teams working on appropriate civil society responses to polycrisis. It promotes capabilities for autonomy and self-reliance of polycrisis response initiatives within a supportive, like-minded community of civil society organisations. It provides tools for people to act, not just out of fear of our uncertain common future, but for concern at what we have lost and hope that we might ease the coming societal transitions. You're looking at a configured version of the Sparks Enterprise Architect, Sparks EA, GUI interface for desktop and internet collaboration. Sparks EA maintains a linked and consistent database reflecting concise and precise diagrams of elements and linkages for model-based systems engineering, MBSE. Sparks EA is a comprehensive tool for iterative consultation, capability building, planning, development, delivery, operation, and review of systems and initiatives. Integrating capability building presentations material directly into the Civil Nexus GUI and platform minimises presentation work duplication. Materials in this presentation from public reports are published under the Creative Commons licensing terms of those reports. Model-derived diagrams and underlying model are copyright Civil Nexus. The 2025 State of the Climate report published by the scientific journal Oxford Biosciences lists 17 key highlights based on peer-reviewed research. We've become desensitised to an increasing volume and severity of impacts to our way of life, but taking time to review a consolidated view of trends in the last year is sobering. In the centre panel are shown the first 8 assessments of Oxford Biosciences 2025 State of the Climate report. Here are the remaining 9 assessments of the 2025 State of the Climate report. Framework Convention on Climate Change, FCCC, identifies 4 goals to promote adaptation and mitigation for climate change damage. Goal 2.1a is holding the increasing the global average temperature to well below 2 degrees C above pre-industrial levels and pursuing efforts to limit the temperature increase to 1.5 degrees C above pre-industrial levels, recognising that this would significantly reduce the risks and impacts of climate change. Goal 2.1b is increasing the ability to adapt to the adverse impacts of climate change and foster climate resilience and low greenhouse gas emissions development in a manner that does not threaten food production. Goal 2.1c is making finance flows consistent with pathway towards low greenhouse gas emissions and climate resilient development. Goal 2.2, this agreement will be implemented to reflect equity and the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities in the light of different national circumstances. On current trajectories, global average temperatures will rise by 2.6 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels by 2060, leading to severe declines in planetary habitability and ecosystem services to people and society. The temperature rise figure is calculated as a combined average of both land and sea surface temperatures averaged over the globe across all seasons and across day and night. A 2-degree average rise represents energy increase in the biosphere of the order of a petawatt. Impacts of extreme global warming include extreme heat, sea ice-free Arctic, sea level rise, vertebrate species loss, plant species loss, insect species loss, and ecosystem collapse, permafrost area loss, crop yield decreases, coral reef extent decline, and fisheries decline. With the Paris Agreement, individual nations were invited to propose and meet the highest feasibly achievable reductions in national greenhouse gas emissions. Emissions are classified as Scope 1, 2, or 3. Only Scope 1 and 2 emissions are included in the targets, leaving large loophole gaps in counted emissions. Documents called Nationally Determined Contributions, or NDCs, form the basis for countries to document the detailed national objectives of the Paris Agreement. They contain information on targets, policies, and measures for reducing national emissions and on adapting to climate change impacts. NDCs also contain information on either the need for or the provision of finance, technology, and capacity building for these actions. Countries communicate new or updated NDCs every 5 years, starting in 2020. By 2025, there were still large gaps in submissions and ambition, which meant both the aspirational target of limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees C and the essential target of limiting global warming to 2 degrees C have been missed. On current trajectories, global warming is expected to lead to 2.6 degrees C increase by 2060, leading to widespread regional uninhabitability and societal collapse. The IPBES Nexus assessment includes 15 climate change response options. IPBES engages climate mainly through a Nexus lens, assessing climate change response options, mitigation and adaptation for their impacts on biodiversity, water, food systems, and human health and well-being, and how they interact with Sustainability Development Goals, the Paris Agreement, and Convention on Biodiversity targets. The response options include increased soil organic carbon interventions, sustainable intensification, integrated multi-trophic aquaculture, wetland conservation and restoration, offshore wind power, solar photovoltaics on land, sustainable bioeconomy, reduce short-lived climate pollutants, multi-hazard early warning systems, global cooperation for finance and technology, agroecology, forest-based practices to address climate change, restoration of coastal and marine ecosystems for carbon sequestration, urban nature-based solutions, and sustainable healthy diets. If you found the presentation interesting and enjoyable, comment and like the presentation and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate constructive comments and suggestions. What are we doing right? What should we do better or more? What should we change or do less? You'll find new presentations in different aspects of the Civil Nexus platform as they are posted. If you're interested in exploring the Civil Nexus platform, contact us via the comments to request access to a personal use read-only copy of the repository that you can virus scan and browse on your desktop. You'll need to visit the Spark Systems website to download and install the free Spark Systems EA Reader to access the models. If you're interested in collaborating on the platform for initiatives to address polycrisis, contact us via the comments to request edit permissions and access. We're interested to make your polycrisis mitigation initiatives of civil society groups visible to others. We can facilitate video conferences to help you document and link your initiatives and stakeholders in the Civil Nexus platform. We can provide basic written advice on configuring software, system, and platform connections. The platform tools are mostly free and open source software, or FOSS, suitable for Windows and Linux computers. But the editing-enabled versions of Spark's Enterprise Architect are a commercial product with a range of pricing and capability options. Even if you're not interested in Civil Nexus, get involved with civil society organisations interested in big picture solutions to polycrisis mitigation and adaptation. Continue hoping that BAU multilateral coordination will provide adaptation for polycrisis. Multilateralism is opposed by autocrats, well-funded private industry groups, and their captured legislators, regulators, and jurists. Progress on achieving required outcomes needs to happen 5 times faster than current rates to avoid the deepest societal collapses.